Patrick Johnson is the Dean of the School of Communication and Annenberg University Professor of Performance Studies and African American Studies at Northwestern University. Johnson has published widely in the areas of race, class, gender, sexuality, and performance. He is the founder and director of the Black Arts Initiative at Northwestern. He's also a prolific performer and scholar and an inspiring teacher whose research and artistry has greatly impacted African American studies, performance studies, and sexuality studies. Johnson is the author of 2 award-winning books, Appropriating Blackness, Performance in the Politics of Authenticity, and Sweet Tea, Black Gay Men of the South, an Oral History. He is currently at work on the companion text to Sweet Tea, entitled Honeypot, Southern Black Women Who Love Women, and an edited collection of new writings in Black queer studies, tentatively titled No Tea, No Shade, New Writings in Black Queer Studies. Johnson was inducted into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame in 2010. And Patrick, thank you very much for joining us here today. Congratulations for receiving this Treasurer's Office Award for Excellence in Education.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to receive the award, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, I know you have many interests. You've done work in performance, but what attracted you to devote your life to education?
It was kind of happenstance. I come from a very small town in rural North Carolina, and I grew up in what was then a segregated community. But I had all of these wonderful teachers. There were 3 Black women in particular who I attribute to my moving into education. And I would love to call their names. Bonnie Rice, who was a second mother to me, Miss Flossie Sadler, who also was another mother to me, and Catherine Tucker. All of them in various ways introduced me to literature, introduced me to Black history and culture. And they actually saw a spark in me as a young Black working class kid growing up in the segregated South, and knew that if they instilled in me their wealth of knowledge, that I might pay it forward. And so I attribute those incredible Black women from my youth to encouraging me to get a higher education and to give back to community. I also attribute my mother, who passed away 2 years ago, who unfortunately didn't graduate high school. She only made it to the 11th grade, but she instilled the importance of education in me.
Now, you come from a small town. How small of a town was that?
Well, not as small as when we think of really small towns, like under 1,000 people, but I'm from a small town called Hickory, North Carolina. Now it's about 40,000, but growing up, it was around 20,000 people there. And Hickory is most known for furniture. So if you had furniture from Hickory Chair or Broyhill, it came from Hickory, North Carolina.
All right. Well, that furniture has come a long way, and you've come a long way since growing up in Hickory. Let's talk about where you are now. Can you tell us about the Black Arts Initiative you founded at Northwestern?
Yes, so the Black Arts Initiative is now the Black Arts Consortium, because we're actually partnering with Black arts institutions around the world, in South Africa, in the Bahamas, in Puerto Rico, in the UK, to bring to light all of the wonderful work that's being done in the Black arts across many genres, including theater, performance, dance, music, literature. And I founded the organization at Northwestern University, where I am now, and now the dean, in 2012, as a way to bring together all of the wonderful scholars and artists, which included faculty, students, and staff, who are doing work in this area. But I also wanted to make sure that we had a connection with the Chicago community. So our first conference that we held in 2013, which was called Black Arts Chicago Moves and Movements, really celebrated the artists who founded many of our arts organizations in the Chicago area, some of which included ETA Creative Arts, which is the first Black theater company here in Chicago, and a number of other Black arts organizations. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And now, again, as I said, we're the Black Arts Consortium, and we have relationships with a number of different Black arts organizations in Chicago and also around the world.
Well, I'm sure your work at Northwestern fills up your days. But
It
in
does.
addition to your work teaching, running departments, overseeing consortium, you're also an award-winning author. So with all that free time I'm sure you have, why did you feel it was so important to pen these books?
Well, I am really invested in everyday folk, people who do not typically have a platform to advocate for themselves or to have a platform to speak. And so I leverage my position as a faculty member, as a scholar, as an artist to engage those who might not otherwise be heard. And so, for instance, my book Sweet Tea and my book Honeypot and my book Black Queer Southern Women and all the other books that I've done are an engagement with folks and communities that are often marginalized. So, for instance, Sweet Tea, which is probably the book I'm most well known for, um, is a study of Black gay men who were born and raised in the South. And as a Black gay man who was born and raised in the South, I know that people think that that's sort of uh, an impossible experience to be Black and gay and growing up in the South, because the South is often thought of as backwards, it's hard and very religious, and so on and so forth. So I wrote that book by speaking with people, conducting oral histories to dispel some of those myths, so that people didn't think that everyone's life who's Black and gay in the South was awful. Sure, there were challenges, but there's also community, vibrant communities. And the other thing is there's a connection to Chicago. We often think of Chicago as up South because many of the Black folk who live in Chicago, particularly on the South and West sides, have families that immigrated from Mississippi and North Carolina and Tennessee and Alabama and Louisiana. So there's also a relationship there as well. And so those books are my ode to the South, but also about the diaspora that happened during the Great Migration.
Well, we have seen tremendous change in attitudes in our lifetimes. And I think that there are some people feel like, oh, well, we have made it, we are accepted. What issues do you think are facing the LGBTQ community you are currently most concerned about?
Well, one of the biggest concerns I have is how Black trans women in particular are still being murdered at an alarming rate. The average age of a Black trans woman is 35 still to this day. And so I think that is at the forefront of my concern. And, there has been some progress, and we have a number of Black trans women who are doing the work on the ground, like Angelica Ross, Precious Davis, who are based here in Chicago and who've gone on to do work in entertainment. But there's so many others who aren't as fortunate, and so that's a big concern of mine. The other is still looking out for youth who are still struggling with their sexuality and gender identity. I think we need to do more in the area of support for particularly youth of color who are struggling with their sexuality or with their gender identity, and making sure that we provide inclusive spaces for them, that we work hard to make sure that our schools are supportive of them, and also that we provide spaces for them to have access to all the things that other students and youth have access to.
Patrick, I've enjoyed our conversation, but as we leave, are there any words of wisdom you'd like to share with individuals looking to follow in your footsteps, people who want to be agents of change?
Yes, I would say always stand in your truth, because if you stand in your truth, you can lead others to their truth. I would say not to be afraid to speak out and speak up against any form of sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and all the other isms that plague our community. It takes a lot of courage, and it takes putting your own body on the line, but it's worth it in the end if you can lift others up. So those would be my words.
Great. Well, that is a great way to end. Patrick, thank you very much for spending time with us and sharing your insights. Congratulations for receiving this Treasurer's Office Award. It has been a pleasure.
It has been my pleasure as well. Thank you so much.